Friday afternoon. To those watching, happy Monday afternoon to the gang that we have here pre-recording. And to those of you watching, you're rolling up on New Year's, so thanks for joining us on our New Year's episode. We've got some of our favorite partners joining us for a conversation around MSP New Year's resolutions. So these guys are gracious enough to come on and tell us what their goals are for their businesses in 2024. And I imagine I'll probably be able to eke out somebody's personal goal if I put mine up there also. And I'm not an MSP, so it's the only one I got. So thank you guys for joining us. I'm going to put Matt on the spot because I saw it earlier today in our call, but we haven't discussed it yet. So tell me what's going on with your hand. Break the ice for us, and then we'll do introduction.
My daughter wanted a henna party for her birthday, and she started painting on my hand, and other people added, and I think I'm stuck with this for like a week, right? Like
you got a little while.
It's like a hell of a turtle shell.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
I have to use my hands like this on camera and not.
You got the Ron. Give him the Ron Burgundy. What do I do with my hand? Anyway, so this is your guys' first time meeting each other, I think.
Yeah.
So let's do a little live introduction before we dive into our regular stuff and go into the topic for today. Let's start with Alberto, and we'll go alphabetical.
Hey guys.
I'm sure you've never been first before because of that.
No, man. I've been used to it since grade school?
AB.
Yep, pretty much. So nice to meet everybody. My name is Alberto. I'm the CEO of the company called RIZQ Consulting. Obviously, if you see my last name, you kind of pick up where the acronym for the company comes out of. We've been in the MSP space since roughly 2009 as a DBA. We've been 17 years roughly in business. So we started specifically through small business. So we've done the whole shebang of, all the, greasy help desk, password resets, printers and all that stuff. And slowly also parallel grew through, the data center and the architecture and some experience that I had already gathered from a previous job that I had in the enterprise space, and bringing that knowledge to small business owners, what was the best practice for them to be, putting on their servers and the configurations and such. And we grew out from that, and slowly but surely doors keep opening and you keep walking through them as you do a good job, right? And now we're servicing healthcare, we're servicing manufacturing, we're servicing car dealerships, a bunch of interesting verticals. And what's been interesting is over the past 5-6 years, how cybersecurity has become such an important part of the relationship with your customers, since they're being asked by everybody around them how to comply to much more complex requirements around that space, specifically regarding cyber insurance. So that's been a big area of opportunity for us to scale our business, and cybersecurity has been at the tip of the spear for the past year and a half. And we came across Fort Mesa not too long ago, and we immediately, felt really good about how Fort Mesa helps us deliver really high quality consultation around what's compliance management and vulnerability management. So happy to be here, guys.
Thank you so much for being here, man. And that's the only time anybody's going to be allowed to toot our whistle. So nobody else feel obligated. We love you guys, and we appreciate you guys being here. It's a great partnership.
Thanks.
Alberto, tell everybody where you're at.
We are in Puerto Rico, and we service customers in the general metro and northern area of the island. We have some customers scattered further down into the south of the island. And a lot of our customers have HQs here, have global presence and offices in Singapore and in Germany and Spain, Switzerland, etc. And we service the whole lot, from Puerto Rico.
Congratulations. You've had a long journey. What's been the biggest thing that you've overcame, or the most satisfying challenge you've overcome during your journey?
Really, the human resource aspect, because when you're doing this for so long and you have your way of doing things, how you grow your business is the people that you bring in and how you train them, and how do you sort through all that. So that's really been the biggest challenge for us, figuring out the right formula. And obviously, I think everybody deals with that in their business, and it's a constantly evolving thing. But thanks to cracking certain codes of that, we've been able to grow a whole lot in the past few years.
Favorite pizza topping?
Favorite pizza place?
Topping? No.
Topping?
Yeah.
Mushrooms and truffle oil.
Okay, all right, fair enough. All right, if I'm good at the alphabet, I think it's James. Thank you for that, Alberto.
You win.
Interestingly, I did pizza for 10 years, so we'll get to the pizza topping at the end. But
I can't wait. I might ask you more than one question.
Zach, I know you were a pizza guy for a while too, so
it's true.
Anyways, James Markley, Virtumarc, formed the company in September of 2022. We launched managed services in May of this year, primarily focused on the compliance space, just trying to really be virtuous in our company, right? And that really started with our company name. So the whole concept when we started the company was, how can we really be this upstanding citizen of IT services, really helping guide our client base and our customers through the entire process, from managed services all the way through to compliance consulting. And not just saying that we're doing the compliance management because we have an automated tool, but leveraging tools like Fort Mesa and leveraging a lot of other tools in our tool set and our stack to make sure that we're actually able to guide the customer on that entire compliance journey from beginning to end. We felt like there was a massive gap sometimes in the MSP space, where there's a lot of MSPs that are selling compliance, but they maybe don't fully understand the ramifications of that compliance framework they're working with or the impact on business. So that's where we started the company out as. On our side, really put a big focus on change management and ITIL framework. We're very heavy into government contracting, and then dealing with companies that are dealing with SOC 2, Type 2, and also a little bit of C2, M2 from the civilian side. Not a whole lot of that yet. Even some companies dealing with CMMI as well, and trying to implement that into their business processes. So we try and walk them through the entire process from beginning to end, and manage their infrastructure at the same time. So.
And you said 2022?
Yep.
So you're new to the journey.
Yeah, I'm new to the MSP journey as far as a player on the block. On our side, I spent 28 years in IT space, 10 years in the retail and commercial space for IT. 8 years I spent in about doing more of web programming and web development, and then 10 years in international business and government contracting. So most recently providing some support for some countries over in the Middle East related to infrastructure projects and some communications projects as well. So.
Well, I knew I got it right on the alphabet, but you gave me so many years of experience there. There's no way that you're 150. So some of that has to over that. That, or you know what? Horrible at math. That's also
no. So actually, coincidentally, what's really funny is that myself and two of the people that work in the company, we all turned 40 this year. I don't usually talk about age because I was told very, very early on by a business mentor of mine that age doesn't matter because you could be a 20-year-old.
I like how you caveated that really quickly.
No, they said that you could be a 20-year-old doing the job of a 50-year-old. You could be a 50-year-old doing the job of a 20-year-old, right? But the expectation doesn't change no matter what the age is. So if you're 20, 30, 40, 50 years old, your expectation is that you should be operating like a 70, 80, or 90-year-old with a world full of wisdom, right? It doesn't mean that you know everything, but the wisdom and the responsibility and the maturity level should align with that. So.
I love that. Well, where are you in the world?
Tampa, Florida. Spent 119 days not in Tampa, Florida last year, and realized that Tampa, Florida was where I wanted to make sure I was here all the time.
Where were you instead? Of course, you love this place, I'm sure.
Yeah, Qatar, Morocco, France, United Kingdom, Spent a little bit of time in Colorado. That's basically another country compared to Florida. So I mean, you go from like 0 sea level to like, you know, nosebleed above sea level, and that's where you're at. So
cool. Tell me in your I guess year and a half or 2 years on your MSP journey, what's been the biggest surprise thing you didn't expect? Because you've had a lot of experience.
the biggest surprise has actually been the customer acquisition journey, and not so much getting the customers. That's actually not difficult in terms of like being able to tell a sales story. What's difficult is breaking the preconceived notion of what a managed service provider should be. I feel like there's a lot of managed service providers that are amazing out there, and there's also a lot that maybe have some room for improvement, right? And unfortunately, I think the negative side of the industry sometimes outweighs the positive side. There's a lot of us that are really good, including Tait and Alberto on this call right now, and we were trying to do the right thing, right? But trying to get the customer when you're meeting them, and you're going through an acquisition process and trying to acquire that new business, trying to somehow, I guess, get through to them to understand what it is that's so different about your organization, and breaking that fear that they have, right, has been the most difficult part. And I didn't expect that, because it's more like you're justifying why you're doing what you're doing instead of telling them why it's amazing, right? It's like a justification statement. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Favorite pizza topping?
Sausage.
Okay. You're
Not-
off the main stage, man. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
not Italian sausage, sweet sausage. So.
He didn't
give
even have to think about that one.
Yeah,
I could
well,
tell
he's got
that,
10 years of pizza experience. I forgot I was going to come back to that. Maybe I know some of it, but how fast can you make a large pepperoni pizza? Gun to your head.
The fastest I ever made, I had to make like 15 one time, right? And I timed myself because I was really curious how fast I can make 15.
Yeah.
And I made 15 in like 9.5 minutes from beginning to end.
That's a good speed.
And that was like everything from like stretching out the dough to like, you know, saucing it, cheesing it, putting the toppings on, counting out the pepperoni. But definitely not an industry that I miss. I mean, as much as it was like very rewarding because it's like, you know, drinking from a fire hose and learning a lot about managing people, it was not something I want to go back to.
Well, after you get to 2 pizzas a minute, like that's the pinnacle of your pizza career, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot more you can do, right? Like, it's like, oh.
Moving fast. I knew this kid in Salt Lake City. He'd do 11 seconds.
That was
Nice.
Crazy on a whole pizza.
Yeah, we could get into the semantics of that because you were a Domino's guy and I was a Papa John's guy. We won't talk about the differences between the two qualities of product.
Yeah, y'all roll it out. No, I don't even know what that is. No, just anyway. All right, Tait, you're up, man. I could talk about pizza forever. Let's spare all the poor
I'll
folk
talk
of
about
that.
pizza forever. I'm Tait Covert. I am one of the owners of Sentry Computing. We are in Seattle, Washington. I didn't used to have to say that because our name used to be Seattle Computing, so it's pretty easy to figure out. I loved it when people asked me what time zone we were in. I've been doing it for ever. I started doing computer support like 2001, 2002, and then Seattle Computing got incorporated in 2008. So that's probably the better start line. I've been through, you know, some interesting partnerships and acquisitions and lots of stuff, and I'm back where I'm happiest, which is running this company. And I think, ironically or not, I've been working with a lot of the same customers for that whole time. We have quite a few customers that I met in 2003, 2004. And I think, you know, we do that by, you know, not just being really fun guys to hang out with, but, you know, making sure we're trying to be on the forefront all the time, not getting complacent, not getting lazy. I think that's what I see. I mean, I hear, you know, Alberto and James talking, that you guys have such interesting journeys of, you know, more security focused. Obviously, James is just kind of starting this thing and cranking it and trying to maybe change the paradigm a little bit. You know, we've been just trying to be that leader for forever. And that takes some work when you work with the same customers all the time, you know. And security for us was an interesting journey because the bulk of our clients don't really have any compliance requirements. You know, we work with a ton of architects, engineers, construction companies, and they are small business primarily. And, you know, I mean, they need things, but it's different than the things that, you're providing these, HIPAA compliant customers, healthcare, anything in that realm. And so we have to, constantly figure out that balance between what they actually need and what we want to provide. And, I know everybody's not supposed to plug Fort Mesa, but Fort Mesa is, I think, an interesting tool just because I think we can have these different types of clients and bring them on a journey that's different for them than for some others, and different for the different kind of clients we have. I still love doing it, and I think I do love the customer interaction the most. It's nice to be able to, like this year, I drive around, my partner and I, and we deliver gift baskets to every one of our clients, and we've done that. I think forever, and it's just nice to interface with them and talk with them and know that we've had this long history, but I end up talking to them about something different every year. Like, hey, this is the year of this kind of thing, and this is the year of this kind of security, and it makes it fun. And I'm glad we're still doing it. And thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for saying those kind things. Thank you for sharing your story. You gave us where you were already in Seattle.
Yeah,
Seattle.
I cheated.
Yeah, Sentry Computing, formerly Seattle Computing. Were you a big Supersonics fan?
We all were, yes.
Yeah. Do you still follow KD, or is that, or
No.
have you lost love for it? Yeah.
No, once it was gone. At least for me, we focus on the Seahawks and the Mariners. At least
So I'm a big Steelers fan. So you and I will have to shoot emails back and forth this next week. I don't think that I'll have very many things to say because we've been ghastly. But in any case, you've got a long tech journey, and you've been in the space a long time. You've been providing services a long time. You've watched the industry evolve over 20 years. What's been the craziest thing you've seen in your very impressive?
Oh boy, the craziest thing I've seen, technically speaking, I think a very recent, security compromise that I saw that was the craziest I'd seen. It was the classic old someone gets into someone's account, and in this example, they got in there because the person let them in, which is always like, oh good, got in there and not only downloaded email and figured out stuff and registered another domain. We see it all the time, at least the idea of it. And I think the craziest part about this was how sophisticated it was, because they not only had registered a bank account in the name of the company, but had live people answering the phones that were, like English speaking, sounded exactly like, the people that they were trying to call to confirm the bank account changes. And so, that was pretty sophisticated, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was the craziest I'd seen, just how good they were the whole time. Just so fluid and scary, but that's probably the craziest. Besides watching this building behind me get knocked down, which was really fun too. Everyone said forever I had the best interactive Zoom background going. You could literally watch them take this building down like floor by floor.
That's cool. That's cool. Okay, well, thank you for sharing all of that. Favorite pizza topping, and then I'll hand the stage back over to DJ Matt.
I'm gonna go obscure with pizza topping only because I moved to Iceland in 1997 to follow my wife. And I went into a pizza place there, and they had a pizza with pepperoni and bananas on it. And it's still like, my son loves it too. Like we make pepperoni and banana pizza at home because no one else is going to make it. But
I'm going to have to give that a go. In all my pizza years, I haven't given that a
We
try.
like it with like some red pepper flakes, some a little spicy on it too. It's really good. Or black pepper.
Awesome.
Always good too. But yeah.
Alberto, that sounds like they might do that in your part of the world. Have you ever heard of that?
That's we'll do sweet plantains, not like straight up banana.
Plantains. I was gonna guess something along that line. Okay. All right, I was close. I wasn't too far.
Close.
All right, Matt. Before I get myself in trouble, you're up, man. Ball's back to you. Thank you guys for those great introductions.
I'm looking forward to some plantain pizza. I gotta say, like they're a fixture in our house, but I have not tried them on a pizza yet. Yeah. So.
You can put anything on a pizza. It is the funniest thing. There's so much good stuff. Just look through the fridge and be like, I'll try this today. It's great.
It's true.
All right.
Oven. I don't know, you guys probably do too, but the pizza oven is like the best thing ever.
So we're gonna. James has more years in pizza than me. Now to come to mention it, I'm sure you've done some experiments. All right, Matt. Don't let me.
I'm gonna queue up control of the day, guys. Here we go. All right, so here we are, CIS Control, and we only have a few of these groups left, but today we are in Continuous Vulnerability Management, CIS Control 7. It has 7 subparts or sub-controls. These safeguards, like most CIS controls, are tagged either implementation 1, 2, or 3. So implementation group 1 is for the lower maturity companies who are investing a little bit less in cyber because they're using off-the-shelf software and they don't have dedicated IT staff. They probably don't have custom business applications. They probably don't own servers, shrink wrap stuff. And they definitely don't have any regulated data. Now, if an organization does have some regulated data or they have business applications that are custom, they would be in implementation group 2. And for the organizations with the most sensitive systems, either because they absolutely cannot afford a security failure, the data is highly regulated, or a failure of security could lead to an impact to human safety, you absolutely need to be up at implementation group 3, according to CIS. In continuous vulnerability management, it looks like 1 through 4 are recommended for every single organization in the world. Want to stop attacks, you need to have 1 through 4. And the last 3 are for organizations that are in implementation group 2 or 3. So I'm just going to shoot through these quick, and then we'll get on with our topic of the day. Continuous vulnerability management 7.1, establish and maintain a vulnerability management process. Like many of these controls, it's important to decide what your process is, to chase down these safeguards, to manage risks that are in this category. So the first thing is decide who's going to do what when, exactly what's going to happen, how do you ensure it happens on time. In the case of vulnerability management, there's some decision frameworks as we go through these other controls. And so before you actually start doing the things, you should think about your process. You should write it down, right? Make sure everyone's signed up. So that's the process management part. And as we move into 7.2, establish and maintain a remediation process. Now, this is a subpart of vulnerability management. Vulnerability management, like any kind of risk management, has one of a few different things you could do to manage that risk. So you could remediate the vulnerability. You could accept the vulnerability, accept the risk, right? There's a few other things you could do. But as we establish the remediation process, think through like what is the process in your organization if you decide you're going to make a vulnerability go away, right? And there might be a series of if-thens. As an example, check if the patching is working on this system, right? Make sure there's not a patch management problem when you find that vulnerability. You might follow up with that and say, in addition to the fact that the patches maybe are working or not working, consider that maybe some pieces of software are not going to be handled by your patch management system. So what is your process for making sure that systems that have a dangerous vulnerability but can't be handled by patch management, what is that process? Do you need to take the system offline and hand it to a specific person who hunts down software updates? Part of that might be even tracking down software licensing, right? So you might decide that you need a bunch of information on file and a bunch of people involved and a little workflow or a little flow chart of what happens in what order to make sure that the vulnerabilities that are easy to remediate are remediated first, and the ones that are harder, that you've got a process for that too. 7.3, perform automated operating system patch management. Now, I just mentioned that that's one of the things you should be doing in your remediation process, right? But what it's saying here is that you absolutely need to have your operating system patch management turned on and automated, right? So this means that if the user does nothing, they get patched. That does require that at some point, the patches are forced. So in the case of an endpoint, forced reboot at some point in time, if you decide that the system's not going to naturally reboot. In the cases of a server, having those automated maintenance windows, maybe an automated time when those patches are put in place, right? And 7.4, perform automated application patch management. Now, The operating system patch management is somewhat easier because most operating systems have automated patch enforcement built in. You just have to turn on the policy. But when it comes from the application perspective, you probably have to buy a product. As a service provider, MSPs usually have RMM tools, and some of them are better at patch management than others. But a good RMM, she'll be able to patch. If it says it patches 400 products, right, that's in the goodish category, right?
I really like that you gave. I really like that you gave her the gender. The gender. You assigned her the gender of female for RMM. I will never call another RMM in my life boy ever. So thank you for that.
If you're a patch management product, only patches 40 products, right? If it only patches like the operating system and Office, right? That's probably going to be a huge waste of time for you, because what you're going to find is when you actually do the vulnerability scan, there's going to be so many high profile things that are not automatically patched. You're going to be pouring human hours into this hole, and you'd be best served to get an RMM in place that does a better job at that. Now, that's it for what's recommended for every organization. If we're going to go a little bit further than that, we actually want to think about automating the vulnerability scans, right? So you'll notice that 7.1234 don't talk about automating scanning, okay? While I think it's a high value, low effort thing to do for every organization, in particular, if you have a service provider like an MSP, right, involved, they actually have the expertise and tools to do vulnerability scanning and integrate that into a process, right? If you're a small business and you don't have a service provider to help you, it's unrealistic that you're going to be able to use those scans effectively. But scanning for all of the assets on an ongoing basis, right? And I think in CIS, what they recommend is that if a vulnerability is scannable, you have scanned it and you've remediated it. You've done something about it, even if it's accepting the risk within 14 days, right? And so that's a pretty continuous process to be able to find the vulnerability, do something about it within that 14-day window. 7.6, perform automated vulnerability scans for externally exposed enterprise assets. Now, I just want to point out here, CIS says that this is after you've done internal assets. So I think that in the service provider industry for a long time, the thing that was most popular to do was to scan the outside of your customer, looking for problems in the firewall, externally exposed applications, etc. Currently, under the current attack environment, the current threat environment, that is less important. Scanning the outside of a company is less important than scanning the inside, because attackers are coming in through the web browser, they're coming in through the email. Those are not things you can scan from the outside. You need to scan your actual endpoints to find those problems. But scanning outside is great. You may find that there's systems external that you didn't expect to be external, right? You may find that the customer or someone plugged something in and made it externally available that you as the service provider didn't know about. Scanning it's a great way to find that. 7.7, remediate detected vulnerabilities. Now this is the last thing at the end, and what I want to note here is, having the remediation process, making sure that your policy is in place, actually putting the scanners in place. All of these are dependencies to actually do full remediation, right? So, but if you're doing all those things and you've created an inventory of vulnerabilities, it's time to remediate them. And it used to be, if we rewind a few years, that the remediation instructions were, hey, you should remediate anything that's 7 or higher on an impact score. And there's a standard scoring system for that. But that was the days when scanning once a year was the norm, or even once a quarter. Organizations would scan their networks, they would find hundreds or thousands of vulnerabilities, and the IT department or the service provider would spend weeks or months grinding down that list to the point where they've eliminated all those high priority vulnerabilities. These days, it's really important to do this quickly. Let me tell you, the people that have a revenue model in alignment with finding these vulnerabilities are going to be the ones that find them first. So attackers, as we just discussed, Tait was just talking about how attackers are really great at putting together. I mean, yes, they have streamlined operations, but this is because they have hundreds of employees or the equivalent, right? And they're attacking businesses that maybe only have a few employees, right? So they're actually going to be better at their processes than the organization that they're attacking. And let's just hope that they're not better at the service provider as well. And that's why it's really important for the service provider to figure out a revenue model, right, that is incentivizes finding those vulnerabilities, right, and finding them faster than the attackers are going to find them, because they're looking all the time. So that's 7.7 vulnerability management. We didn't go too deep into it, but
that one felt like a light sprint compared to some of those two.
It's a one pager. It's a one pager.
Hey, Matt, you didn't tell us your favorite pizza topping.
Well, I am looking forward to the plantain pizza topping, and I'm trying to decide whether I should fry them or bake them before.
No. What's your current favorite, not your future favorite?
So someone mentioned mushroom earlier, and that's usually my go-to. But for whatever reason, I'm craving pineapple right now. So
I thought Alberto was going to say that, man.
Hey, so quick mushroom joke. I guess you're not going to be a fun guy on the call, right? Like,
how long have you been holding on to that one?
I love it.
So
go ahead.
That leaves us with topic of the day, guys. It's almost New Year's. We're recording a week and a half out here, but for most of the people watching here, we've got hours left to go. So now's the time to sort of commit, right? Commit to doing something important next year, right? Yeah. So for those of us on this call, we're gonna make some promises that we maybe can keep, but we're gonna try really hard. Whether we make it to the goal line or not, we're gonna try really hard. And for people watching, I want to see those in the comments. And remember, if you publicly memorialize your New Year's resolution, we're gonna hold you to it.
He's saying that to me. He's talking to me.
It sounds like you're saying it to me, just because I know
he's talking to me.
I apologize for every other year.
Well, for you guys, talk about. We'll go around and we'll do a round of what you guys hope happens in your business. We're not coming around to hold you guys to anything specifically, but in terms of I remember when the new year was rolling around. When I had a franchise, I was thinking about. I want to see X, Y, and Z team member develop. I want to see A, B, and C happen with sales. I want to see the Papa John's across the street, X, Y, and Z, like all those different things I had really clear goals on. And then obviously we do those things for our lives as well. But what we'll go backwards this time. Tait, what's the number one thing you hope happens for your organization? And I want you don't think about Fort Mesa. That's not the intention of the, but these are, there are going to be people watching this that are maybe new in their journey or maybe stuck on where they should be, and they may identify with you and your story. So be authentic and tell people what you want to see happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I want to see happen may be a slightly different question than what the New Year's resolution is, right?
Sure.
And I think starting with what I'd like to see happen, we spend a lot of 2023 trying different marketing strategies, right? And I think when you've been doing it as long as I have, you kind of get used to things going a certain way, and you have natural growth, right? I mean, I know Alberto mentioned it earlier. It's like, the people keep knocking, you keep getting these clients and all that. But if you really want to make a push, right? The trendy thing to do is to go buy somebody, and I'm looking at that too. But I think I want to find some marketing tools that are actually effective, and I think I've learned a lot about what not to do. So that may be, a big part of my 2023 story is, trying some of these cold calling type of services and not having success, and and figuring out what to do next. And I think partnerships are a huge part of it, right? And it's a good timing because we're having this call right now. a lot of the vendors we are working with right now are because they're really good partners. Like I got tired of dealing with vendors that were just vendors. And then we all got tired of some giant MSP service that got bought by this other giant MSP service that I'm not naming names, but makes me want to vomit. And finding new partners that were just so interesting that are actually leading us to business. So it's marketing for me, but effective marketing in 2024.
Fair enough. Well, I'll take that as a resolution for your business. I'll accept that.
Okay. But my only other resolution, I got to get resolution real quick in there. So
okay.
hit me. Really short.
Oh, perfect.
I know everyone at my company, myself included, would be happy if I don't come to them with 20 new tools I want them to try in 2024.
Okay.
So,
we can hold you to that one. We'll follow up. We'll follow up on that one.
One of my partners is going to watch this. He's going to be like, "Oh, you said it." I'm like, "I know, I said it." So just like try to stick with something for a little while.
Okay, perfect. I appreciate that. James, man, you're up.
So this is it's a nod to T-Mobile in a way, but one of the things that I always thought was really neat a few years ago was they did the whole team of experts concept behind when you would call into their support line, and we've batted the idea around about doing that as we've grown, and I'd really like to see that happen in 2024. I would love to have my customers, going back to what Tait said about the relationship earlier, I would love to have my customers call in and have the same 3 or 4 people they always deal with. And not just from a technician standpoint, but also their account manager, right? Like make that part of the team so that when the customer calls in, they just know they're getting routed right to the same people. And they, one of the things we were actually talking about today when we were out, we had a quick little leadership meeting, and I told them, for 2024, I was like, as we roll the rest of, we have our whole product stack out there, as we continue to grow our product stack, we're trying very heavily not to white label products. And it sounds kind of weird because, a lot of in the MSP space, a lot of people like to white label.
We like for you guys to do it with ours, which is just interesting to hear.
Right. But what I want to do, what I've told them is I was like, I want to white label our people. Like I want to white label support. I want everybody, like our sales story is that it's our support people that are the most amazing part about dealing with the company, right? It's not, you can go to 15, 20, 30, hundreds of other vendors and get, maybe get the same product, but it's really the people and the way they implement that product is what sells. And so that'd be my 2024. Yeah, that's my 2024 resolution is to not to lose focus of that. Because it's really easy, like in this space, to see competitors that are doing stuff differently and they have momentary success, and to think, okay, let me kind of like move my train that direction a little bit, but to stay laser focused on that whole concept, that would be my 2024 resolution.
Well, I love that. I love it because it is basically what you're saying is believe in my team is your resolution, to put them in their, in the
but see, that's like a resolution if you're not doing it. And I already do believe in my team.
No. But you know what I mean?
It's like when somebody says I'm going to lose weight next year, right? And you're like, it's because I haven't gone to the gym.
You know how I mean it, though. That's the way it's communicated. But I love that.
I'll say this: continue to stay the path. That would be my goal in 2024. Like, if I have thousands of MSPs across the entire world that are upset with me because we're not white labeling or because we're not willing to fall into the same bucket as what the MSP space should be doing, then I guess maybe I'm doing something right. I'm saying should because, and going back to what Tait was saying, he mentioned conglomerates, right? And, there is a vendor out there who has an arena down in the South Florida area. And I won't name any names about him. I'm not going to name any names about him. I don't use their tools. But I also don't use anybody with the tool name starting with letter C either. But
is it Acrisure?
Huh?
Is it Acrisure?
No. One of them has a name that sounds feminine. The other one has a name that says masculine. So you may have to call.
You guys.
I digress on this. So I'm going back to Zach's jokes. But what I will say about that, right, is that there's this really big push from the conglomerates to standardize the space and to get every MSP to be beating the same drum, and to have this similar marketing materials, similar tool sets, similar stacks. And I think the problem is that also commoditizes the services offered. So now Every MSP is offering the services in the same manner with the same type of people, the same type of support. And I want to make sure we continue to try and break that mold. I think it's the right thing to do for the
Well,
industry.
we can also be the same and combine into one giant company, right? No,
Yeah.
I really like that, James. That's awesome. Alberto, man, you're up.
So I can see why you guys put us together. We all three of us have pretty similar visions in terms of what we want our customers to see of us. From the small business standpoint, when you were brought up in that area, everybody just wanted to talk to the one guy. So for a lot of the time, for a long time, my motto was the one man to call for all of your problems, right? So we'll do everything from scrape paint on your data center to, deploy Azure. So that look and feel of the service is what's, opened so many doors. Obviously, how do you sustain that as you grow? So what's the biggest challenge for me is, and I mentioned human resources earlier, is, okay, this is the model that I've proven works. This is what's opened doors to me. I want to ask the same of my entire team. But then when you start hiring people and you have different tiers and, these guys know a little bit more about this, these guys know a little bit more about that. How do you combine that and still offer the same level of service to the customer, right? And talking about the partnerships and white labeling or not white labeling, I'm like James. I don't white label most of the things I don't really. It's all about telling my customers like, hey, I partnered with these guys, and these guys are as good as they are because of X, Y, Z, and look at their certifications and all their stuff. And we bring in together our expertise and we make this explosive team happen for you, right? And that goes for all brands, including the non-mentioned arena owners. Because certainly I don't use many of their tools that are customer facing, except for one that they recently purchased. Dang it. But I use what works from them internally for some of my stuff. And it's been very, very good. It's been helping us a lot. And it's just a matter of, picking the right partners to do the job and keeping the quality high. And how do you grow and scale and keep that quality high? So it might mean that, you don't have to tell your guys to do everything and talk about everything with your customers. It might be, putting one person in between your techs and the customer and do that talking, not really a salesperson or an account manager, but somebody that at least tells them, hey, we're listening. We're going to be there in a second. That sort of touch, that continuous touch is what customers appreciate more than the technical aspect. I mean, let's be real. We're MSPs. We're here fulfilling an area where they don't have an expertise in. It could be that they don't even have an IT department. Like 90% of my customers, I'm their IT department. Every stack from help desk to everything. So they don't really judge you on your technical merit. They judge you on how easy you are to work with, how personable you are, how cool your techs are with their employees. When situations happen, who raises a hand when they made a mistake? All that stuff.
So I love that. People, if they're watching this for the first time, don't know this, but if you have or watching for the second or third, you may know this. I owned restaurants, so I got to choose my providers in a number of different spaces. One of which was around services on the professional side, so like my legal and my accounting. But then I also was not a tech professional at the time, and I had somebody that helped me with the tech in my store. And as you can imagine, in a restaurant, if the tech goes down, I mean, people probably know this. If you all of a sudden can't print receipts, and you've got hundreds of orders that you need receipts for, I mean, your stress goes from none to a million. And having a really good tech guy, deli. Somebody put in our chat here, deli tickets. Absolutely, yeah. That's stressful, and having a really good IT team being able to solve that right now is like. Whew. So you're right. That they're dealing with you because of the way that you make them feel and your techs and all that stuff. But here's the thing: when I was making a decision about who I was going to have do my tech, I wasn't thinking to myself, well, how well do they know their tech? How smart are they? I just assumed if you own a tech business, you probably know what it is. And now I might just be the guy with his head, where it shouldn't be. But I'm guessing most businesses assume if you've made it far enough to start your own tech business that you don't need to prove your qualification that you know.
I want to add two things to that.
You could add three if you want.
The first one, and this goes out to the other MSPs that may be watching, don't stress about hiring the guy that has all the certifications and all the technical preparation. Bring them in through the ground floor. If you have a help desk that does, the lower level work, bring them in through the help desk. I have a guy in my team that's been with me for 8 months. He used to be a chef and had the biggest tech experience he had was building gaming PCs. That was great enough for me. That was my origin story when I was 12.
It's a good skill.
And I brought him in. We gave him some training. We set him a challenge for like, hey, get A+ certified, and I'll give you an extra $3 an hour if you finish it within the month. I don't know. Challenge them.
I recommend hiring people from the restaurant industry because they work hard. And if anybody's looking for recommendations, I've got a Rolodex longer than you could ever want.
So,
Matt, you're up, man.
On that.
Say that again, Tate.
I've said for years that I would rather hire someone with really good customer service skills than teach them tech. I think that at an entry level, like you got to have the bigger boxes checked, right? You got to have the guy on the top that can do all the rest. But if you're getting someone new, give me the guy who's the most personable guy in the room, who likes talking to people, who's really interested in what they're doing, and we can teach it. Right?
This may come back to bite me because I'm sure somebody will like clip this off of the video and they'll be like, "Oh, James Markley said this" or something, right? But this is actually really serious. I don't think I really honestly have told people this before. I feel like customers are more than willing to wait for a solution to their problem if you don't know the answer, right? And they're also more than willing to accept I don't know the answer to the problem, as long as the person has good customer service. Then they are they're honest, then a quick fix. Like I told you before, I said, I think a customer will be, and I'm not, this is not our industry model. We have an SLA we track against and everything else. But I said, I really do feel like if a customer had to wait 3 or 4 days for a solution, but the person that was taking care of them followed up with them every day to let them know they were still working on it, check in and see how things were going, and then finally fix the problem, they'd be a lot happier than the guy that fixed it in 5 minutes and hung up on them.
So I'm going to talk pizza. I was in the industry through COVID, so I got to see a lot of different transitions of there being a surplus of staff to there being not enough staff to there being a surplus of demand to there all sorts of different things. So I had the luxury of problem solving in a lot of different spaces there, and the thing that we learned is that if you were understaffed one day and you were going to be providing service that was outside of what the general expectation was, if you took the time to call the customer and say, hey, we usually get you your pizza in 25 minutes. Today, it's going to be an hour and 25 minutes. Do you still want it? And we'll make sure it's hot. 90% of the time, the people are like, no worries. I'm going to throw on, a couple of episodes of Netflix. I know what's happening. I'm comfortable. Where people get angry is when they're expecting something to happen, and then without any idea of why it may not be, it just doesn't. So it starts to create that, well, what's going on? And I'm scared and I'm stressed. And what if? What if it doesn't
everything
show?
in the world comes down to communication?
I would make that argument.
That's my mantra.
I'm buying that argument up.
All about communication. One thing that's hard to teach some people too, and I think the people that don't get that are the ones that probably don't last. It's like you have to communicate what's going on to your team, to your client, to your boss, to everything. You've got to say
your wife.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
100%.
Matt, do you want to do some business goals here? You do not have to be put on the spot.
I thought about this a lot. I mean, I think about it all the time.
We
right?
think about it together all the time.
Yeah, all the time. But if we're thinking like whole year, right? We sell like a glorified spreadsheet with like some preloaded data and some like technical features on jammed on the side, right? I mean that's what we do from a software perspective. But like the center of what we do, right, is we enable partners. And for, I think there's been some discussion on this call about not all service providers are the same, right? And there's two
Even the
reasons
all
why.
stars. We have three all stars here, and they're doing it.
They're really
hitting the
different.
ball
Yeah,
out of the park 3 different ways. We got Nomar over here.
So, yeah, every service provider we talk to, there's things they're really awesome at, right? And they provide unique value in those ways, right? And then there's things that maybe they need support on, or things that they've never done before, right? And so what we have to do, and this is the center of our business really, right, is how do we take the parts of someone's service practice, right, that are awesome and blow them up to 3 times the size, right? Like how do we take the awesome part of someone's business and make that like way more applicable, right? How do we make that even better? But then the parts of their business that maybe they need support on, how do we support them on those things? And with the diversity of service providers we talk to, what this means is we've built a catalog of all the ways we support service providers. And so my goal for 2024, right, is to make sure that our category includes that unique tool in the toolbox so that every single one of our providers, no matter what they come to us in terms of the things they're good at and the things they're not so good at, that we win them one deal, right? Whether that's an upsell or a new customer acquisition, we should have the variety and diversity of tools to help a service provider, no matter where they come from and what they're trying to accomplish. And so that's
connections and tools, right? Connections.
Yeah, that's what and part of that's on the product side, right? But there's other things we got to do. I mean, the center of our business is enabling the service providers, and we got to do all sorts of things. We got to support everywhere from sales, marketing, service delivery patterns, right? Helping them analyze their target customers and like delivering the right security to the right customers. Those are all things that we're expected to be the source of expertise and the source of the best tools and patterns. So that's what I think we should be good at. And Zach's got like a really fun one that he told me about earlier. I don't know, like.
Yeah, so we've probably got 10 minutes left. We're gonna go around and we're gonna do personal ones if you want. If you don't have a personal one you're comfortable sharing, you just make it up, and I won't tell anyone. Matt's putting me on the spot, so I'll do mine first. One of them is I would like to find myself in a romantic relationship. I'm excited about that for 2024. It's a little committed thing. And then the one that's a little bit more fun than that is, so I'm not the tallest man in the world. I come in at a stout 5'6", sturdy. You wouldn't believe it. I've played sports my entire life, and basketball is what I've played in my adult life to stay in shape. A goal of mine in my life is to dunk. I've touched the box. And I would like to touch the rim by the end of 2024. I've done a lot to work on my glutes and my lower back health, and I think I'm primed to give a good spud web. We get a spud web story going.
It's hard to increase jump, right? It's a tough thing. I assume you're younger than me, but that's a tough one.
I've been doing
I played volleyball for 35 years, right?
You'd be surprised to hear it, but I've done yoga for 10 years, so I'm primed. Everything's where it needs to be able to do it.
Success.
I got to lose about 20 pounds.
Making yourself lighter does make it easier to jump.
I'm explosive down here, I'll tell you what. But moving this big hog up. All right. So who's next? We'll start in the middle this time. James.
So personal resolution for this year, I've been working on some of my own little personal stuff, I'll say, in terms of my own health. But one of the things I would say for this year is I want to complete a Sentry bike ride. So I've done a metric Sentry. I did that this would have been in 2008. I did a metric Sentry. And then, you get married, you have kids, you stop exercising like you should and everything else, right? So I can already say I've done a metric Sentry, but I'd really like to do an imperial Sentry, do a full 100-mile bike ride in one day. It's not a matter of oh, I did it and then, it took me 4 days to do it. I only rode 25 miles a day. Not like that. just a full one day, get on the bike in the morning, ride 100 miles by the end of the day.
Now, how many hours is that? Like, that's a long bike.
So when
ride,
I used
right?
to bike, I used to average, like on long rides, I could average about 18.5 miles an hour.
That's what I was going to say. So about 8 hours,
So
7, 8 hours.
yeah, you probably got to figure you probably got to stop somewhere in there, like to not keel over, because it's not the Tour de Florida. But I think that would be neat to try. So it would be a neat goal to accomplish by the end of the year. So maybe next year, if we do New Year's resolutions, I can do it like from the bike while I'm riding and like huffing in the microphone.
You just hang
That would be awesome, actually.
So. Awesome. All right, Alberto, you're up.
Well, personal resolutions or business? What do you prefer?
Well, you gave the business one already, man. Let's wrap up with a nice, easy peasy personal.
Well, I guess it's pretty easy to talk about health, but I just crossed over into my 40s for the second time. I'm 41 now, and I don't really go to doctors very often, so I have to take care a little bit more of myself, to be honest. Get a little bit better eating habits and probably do a little bit of exercises. This job is way too passive. I made it too efficient to be remote and just sit here on this chair and have 100 screens open and just produce 10, 12 hours of work every day and not move a muscle. But I guess that's on to us, a lot of us IT people, and kick ourselves in the rear.
I'll say a big thank you to Matt. He's an awesome founder and boss. He lets me do a lot of my days from the gym if I am able to swing it. He puts up with that. So
it's fun when he's on the call. There's no video. I can hear he's sort of like breathing heavily as he's like going over pricing, and it's like a big full like paragraph, right? And I'm like, oh man, he must be going at speed right now. And I know he's on the treadmill, but
That's impressive. You do it all, actually.
You should have started that whole entire sentence with when Matt's on the treadmill.
I love it.
Or Zach's on the treadmill, sorry.
Either one.
Yeah. All right. So did I cut you off? I think I might have.
No, that's fine. That's what I wanted to get. I don't think too much. Then it's like writing an SOP for the FDA or whatever. It's as much as you write down. It's how much they're gonna look at you.
Well, I love that. I love it, man. That's great. All right, Tait.
Personal resolution. I mean, it's funny. We all talk about health. I think that's the best. I'm glad that we all talk about that. I mean, that's what we should be talking about. I think, like I said, I've been playing volleyball forever, and it's my favorite thing in the world. And the thing is, then it's the only thing I do. And so, like lately, I've been really trying to, like, every day stretch, every day do something, and then find that have the time to do both. But I just spent too many years going, oh yeah, I play volleyball every 2 or 3 days, and that's my thing. That's what I do. And then then like I hurt myself, right? Mm-hmm. And I haven't had too many injuries, but I had like a shoulder injury for my first time, which if you play volleyball, it's like, that sucks. That's like the worst thing you can do pretty much besides knees, which I've done too. But it was the transition from like, I'm just going to be this guy who does this one thing to I'm going to wake up in the morning and I'm going to stretch. I'm going to make time for it. I'm not going to sit on my phone and answer emails from bed, which I've done forever. And then at night, like, I'm not going to sit in front of the TV. I'm going to like go stand up and stretch. I've actually been stretching before I go to bed and when I wake up. Just it helps clear my head too. So I'm going to stick with. I just started that, so I'm sticking with that. That's my whole goal is to not stop doing that when I start playing again, because I'm going to start playing again and I don't want to forget that. Like, no, I still do these other things.
You big hitter.
Yes, that has been my job forever.
You want to see that ball ricochet off of somebody and go into the stands, don't you?
Yeah, I only play beach now, but I played many years of indoor volleyball, hitting very hard, jump serving, and all that stuff.
You'll have to meet. I have a buddy. His name's Connor. He played on the men's Michigan team. They don't. Title IX makes it so that there's some balancing that has to be done. So their men's team is club. Yes. So they didn't. I know
what you're talking about.
Yeah. But he had a blast. His shoulders and knees are opportunities that I think he can fix, and you guys would probably love to talk. He was a side hitter too. So
I'll talk about it all the time, of course. But now I do. You know, my daughter is starting to play, and my son's big into baseball, but he also is starting to play some volleyball.
A lot of fun. All right, Matt, you got me to talk about trying to touch the rim.
All right. So just to put this in perspective, the last few years, in no particular order, and I end screen time early in the evening. My phone doesn't have notifications at any point in the day, right? I have to go look for that information. It's not coming to chase me down. I don't have social media on my phone. Those are things I've been working on. I a few years ago made an effort to learn to use active listening and nonviolent communication in a really intentional way. But this year, I think, is about emotional intelligence. So I think I'm a super logical, rational person. And I just want to argue everything, and I want to win every argument, right? So, I mean, step one was the active listening, like really hearing what people have to say. But I think my next step in life is not just listen to what they say, but remember that they're emotional beings, right? And just because they're rationally wrong doesn't mean that they're emotionally wrong, right? And to remember that when I react and respond, right? So that's me. All of us IT people, you mean?
Probably most of us.
I remember, Matt, one of my first times managing people. I was there's probably somebody on LinkedIn that was in a frat with me that's going to see this and be like, I remember he was such a headache. I was our social chair, and I was putting together a bunch of parties, and there were a bunch of these goofy kids that were drunk and high, and they were getting ready to party, that I was trying to organize to like put shit together. And Matt, I don't know if you know me very well. I think you do now after a year of working with me pretty intimately. My patience for drunk, high kids while I'm trying to get shit done is like low. It was a lot lower than it was now, or than it is now 10 years ago. And I remember just like having no patience or empathy for those people at all who are my friends, and it's not easy. It's not easy. It is something that you choose to learn. And man, that's.
But Zach, I think the most important part I took out of that entire thing you just said is if anybody's been watching this broadcast up until this point and you were in a frat with Zach, can you comment so that we can see who you are?
Oh no. Oh no. I know there's like a handful of names that I just see flashing.
Well, it's okay. We're going to know who they are in a little while.
Please. Yes, please. I'm with James. That would be fantastic.
We've got wonderful business goals. We talked about vulnerability management. We got to know these awesome guys. We got some personal goals out there. Does anybody else want to say anything before we wrap this thing up and let people go get their champagne ready and their little poppers?
I guess I got one last thing that I had the tip of my tongue that I want all MSPs to hear out and, apply for 2024. Your strongest currency is trust. Build it, nurture it, give stuff away sometimes. Keep the trust. That's worth more than any deal that you could imagine, because that'll give you peace of mind.
Love it. Anybody else?
I'll have one. If you have watched this broadcast this long and you've been tuning into the cyber roundtables, you obviously care enough about your business to be amazing, right? Stay the course. Keep being an amazing business that you are. Keep working towards being the best MSP that you can be. There's a lot of people in the industry that may not be the best, but you obviously are dedicated enough to your business that you took the time out to watch this. So just remember that for 2024, you're already taking a step in the right direction if you haven't. And if you have been following that in 2023, stay the course for 2024.
Love it.
I think to that end, make time to watch things like this. I think we all forget sometimes how much we learn from going to events with lots of other MSPs, to going to vendor pavilions, to listening to people talk about specific subjects and what their knowledge and experiences with those. Like, don't forget to do that. I mean, I remember going for a couple of years with like not having enough interaction, and not growing enough from that. So I think James has hit it on the head, and I'll just dovetail in there, and then I'll just say Happy New Year.
There it is. All
I'll be in
right.
Iceland celebrating New Year's.
Very cool. I'm going to be talking to you more about that off camera.
If you guys want to continue Christmas after New Year, just come to Puerto Rico. We celebrate Christmas until like mid-time down January.
Okay, I'm taking that as an official invitation, and I will see you soon. Thank you
Jack,
for everything.
let me know when you get your flight. I'll see you.
Oh, I can't wait. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you, James, Tait, Alberto, Matthew. Thank you for an awesome year. Thank you guys for joining and watching. Those of you who are watching this on the live stream, the recorded live stream. And thank you to all of you listeners and viewers who made a great year of the MSP Cyber Roundtable. It's been a lot of fun to make. It's been a lot of fun to, it's been a journey to build this out and provide something valuable for you guys, and we enjoy doing it. So with that being said, it's our last one for the year. Next week, we're going to be doing another live Fort Mesa MSP Cyber Roundtable. We're going to have Marvin B. joining us from MB Systems, and we're going to do finding comfort with target customers and business models. So it's going to be an exciting time.
And Marvin, for anyone that doesn't know, Marvin has his own podcast. So it's Uncle Marv for those of you who recognize that name.
So it's going to be a great one. We look forward to that. Thank you, gentlemen. Happy New Year. Happy holidays. And we'll see you next year. Bye, everybody.